Hello guys and gals, thank you so much for clicking on this video and checking on my channel FilmBuzz, and if you're new, welcome. And in today's video, I went ahead and checked out the quote-unquote remake of Speak No Evil, which I have to admit straight off the bat, I have not watched the original Dutch film version of this movie prior to writing this script due to the remake coming out this year and me wanting to have a newcomer's perspective on the movie/remake and watch the original movie at a later date and comparing the main differences between both films, which I'm assuming is not a lot other than some things I've heard they switched up during the third act of the movie, which is pretty nuts in the remake. But now without further ado, and that little intro out of the way, let's get into my spoiler-free review of Speak No Evil. So when it came to the remake of Speak No Evil, I'll reiterate once again, with me not having any expectations set in mind, nor any knowledge of the original 2022 film that the remake is based off of, with the same title and premise as the original one, which made for an interesting watch for me specifically because now having watched both the remake and the original one post-edit of this video, I got to admit, but the remake of Speak No Evil is definitely the definitive way of watching this movie/franchise, and that's not to say the original version of Speak No Evil is bad or anything at all, because there is some stuff the original does better than the remake, like any good movie should. But that's not also me throwing shade at the remake because of other than the third acts of both films being somewhat significantly different. But at the end of the day, they're both pretty much the same movie, with the same premise and characters, but with different interpretations from the directors that make both films unique enough from one another, which I got to respect. But now let's move on to some of my negatives of the movie and get them out of the way real quick, because for me personally, there isn't much I disliked about this remake, which should be saying something about this remake since the original Speak No Evil had only released 2 years ago in 2022. But for me personally, I really hate some of the decisions our protagonists were following throughout the movie made, and yes, this time around it's a family we're following and not a certain singular character nor a final girl, which I liked. But anyway, this is the negative segment of the video and not the positive segment. Without going into too many spoilers, since both Speak No Evil films are still fairly new and not many moviegoers have watched them, but there are some certain interactions near the 30 to 60 minute mark of the movie that really rubbed me off the wrong way. And if a certain character had made a certain decision, this whole entire plot of the strangers in the movie wouldn't happen, which is really annoying and somewhat falls into that stereotype of a character in movies who always makes the dumbest and most stupidest decisions someone could make in that situation, which I really don't blame them that much, since I'd maybe also be making that move if it were down to me. But another negative I had about the movie is it's really slow paced throughout the first and second act of the movie. Well, to be more specific, the second act of the movie starts out slow like the first act and is still setting up the world and the characters, but midway through the second act, this wholesome part in the movie comes out of nowhere from the movie and secretly sets up pieces of the puzzle that was crucial later in the third act of the movie, which I'll get into here shortly. But other than that, and it starts out really slow paced for the first 2 acts of the movie and really picks up midway through the second act and climaxes in the third act. But now with the negative segment of the video out of the way, now to some of the positives I had about the movie. Let's start out with the cast. Not only is the family dynamic for both families we're following throughout the movie pretty good, and you can really seem to care for them due to their outstanding performances and what's going to happen to them in the movie. But now let's talk about the standout actor of the movie. The man, the myth, the legend, James McAvoy. And not only does he carry the movie with his good cop, bad cop personality he seems to have throughout the movie and be putting on, but he also comes off really intimidating as a character, which here's a mini spoiler alert if you haven't avoiding watching the trailers of the movie, because he is one of the main antagonists of the movie and makes for a memorable one, especially when he needs to switch back and forth from this nice down-to-earth guy you want to be friends with that you met at the pub last night to then this brute of a force to reckon with. And James McAvoy really puts on this intimidating persona, which really does leave a lasting impact on the audience and gets you on the edge of your seat to find out whether or not he's telling the truth or he's actually showing his true self to the audience and our protagonist. But another positive I had about the film is Mackenzie Davis, who plays the wife of our cast's protagonist. We're falling throughout. Her performance is low-key underrated, but that's not necessarily her fault when you got James McAvoy over here putting on quite the performance and literally overshadowing every single character in the movie. But getting back to Mackenzie Davis, dude, in the moments where the movie starts to get serious and tensions arise with our characters, she's a standout, and especially in the third act of the movie, where she goes from this cautious and uncertain overprotective mother to a ruthless badass mother that's done playing around waiting for a miracle to happen to save them. But lastly, another positive of the movie I had is the way this movie is shot particularly, and how these tiny moments planted throughout the movie eventually led to a satisfying conclusion, which I'm not going to get into here since it's a big spoiler of the movie, and after all, this is a spoiler-free review, but we ain't gonna mention that one slip-up I had. I really like the way some of the shots inside the house were primarily the second and third act of the movie place in, because when we first get introduced to the house and we get this massive crane shot of the house, it really lays out the movie's plot for us, giving us all the information we need for further along in the movie, which I love these subtle but tiny pieces of the story being planted early on that led to an eventual satisfying conclusion in the third act of the movie, which you'd probably already forgot by then since so much has been going on that the tiny seeds that got planted earlier on in the movie then get to shine in the third act of the movie due to these subtle but major plantings earlier on in the movie. But now in conclusion, is the 2024 American remake of Speak No Evil worth giving it a go and going out of your way to watching it in the silver screen, which is the theaters for your information? Yes, and if I were to give it a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10 for it being a movie that is slowly paced early on into its runtime, but really starts picking it up midway through the second act and really sets things into gear and gets the audience on the edge of their seats, eagerly awaiting what's to come. And that's also without mentioning James McAvoy's performance, which is phenomenal and certainly the highlight of the movie. But then again, guys and gals, at the end of the day, this is my own opinion and what I thought about the remake of Speak No Evil. And with that, if you like this video and would like to see more movie reviews like this, I would really appreciate you guys and gals hitting that like and subscribe button down below, and maybe even turn on bell notifications to get notified when my newest video gets uploaded, which I can't make any promises when I release a new video since I'm balancing this YouTube channel and life outside of it, especially my education side of stuff in my life. But as always, guys and gals, take care.